Am I the a-hole for leaving my dad's early instead of babysitting? I, 23 am, hadn't seen my dad in almost 7 months because I live about half a day's drive away. Last weekend, I took time off work to visit him, planning to spend some quality time together. I arrived Friday night and stayed on the couch at his place. My dad has a wife and a 6-year-old son. Saturday morning, my stepmom suggested I take my little brother to the beach or somewhere fun. I told her that my dad and I had plans to hang out, but my brother could join us. She then mentioned that she and my dad had plans for a spa day, dinner, and a movie. It would take the whole day. When I confronted my dad, he apologized and said his wife got excited after hearing I was coming and thought it would be a great time for them to go out. He suggested we could do something together on Sunday, but I was leaving that morning. I was upset and told him I didn't drive for hours just to babysit. My stepmom chimed in, saying I should be happy to spend time with my brother, especially since I was staying at their house for free. I decided there was no point in staying and drove back home. Now, my family thinks I was being selfish and bratty. So am I the a-hole? Am I the a-hole for refusing to babysit my sister's kids after she said I'm not a real parent? I am 34, have a 7-year-old daughter and often help my sister Claire, F35, by babysitting her 3 kids. Recently, Claire asked me to watch her children over a weekend so she and her husband could attend a couples retreat. I declined, explaining that I had already planned a special daddy-daughter weekend with my child. Claire became upset and remarked that I should help her out since she has real responsibilities as a mother of 3, implying that I only have 1 child and therefore wouldn't understand what it's like to be a real parent. I was hurt by her comment and told her that if she doesn't consider me a real parent, perhaps she shouldn't rely on me for childcare. Now, she's furious, accusing me of punishing her over a small comment and being selfish for not helping her when she needs it. Even our mom has chimed in, suggesting I should let it go because Claire has a lot on her plate. I don't think it's fair to be treated like a free babysitter, especially when my role as a parent is being disrespected. Am I the a-hole for refusing to babysit after what she said?
I exposed my friend's deepest secret, and I don't regret it. So, my friend, let's call her Anna, had a huge secret. She was dating her boss, who was also married. I found out because Anna accidentally texted me screenshots meant for someone else. I confronted her privately. She begged me not to tell anyone. I agreed, for a while. But fast forward, Anna started bad-mouthing me at work, blaming me for things she did wrong. I was about to lose my job because of her lies. So yeah, I exposed everything to HR. Anna got fired. Her boss got a divorce. And me? I got promoted. Do I regret it? Not one bit.
Am I the a-hole for not inviting my brother to my wedding and telling my parents and sister that if they try to bring him they will all be asked to leave? I, 30 am getting married next year. My brother, 32 and I have been estranged for several years due to a major betrayal. He slept with my ex-fiancée 3 months before our wedding. This act devastated me, and I called off the wedding. Since then, I've had no contact with him. Now, as I plan my upcoming wedding, I've chosen not to invite him. My parents and sister are pressuring me to include him, saying it's time to move on and that family should come together for such occasions. They've even hinted at bringing him along regardless of my decision. I've made it clear that if they do, they will all be asked to leave. They accuse me of holding a grudge and being unforgiving. I believe I'm setting a boundary to protect my well-being and the sanctity of my wedding day. Am I the a-hole for standing my ground?
Am I the a-hole for exposing my sister's secret affair to her husband on Christmas Eve? I, 24F, have a sister, Emily, 26F, who's always been perfect in everyone's eyes, or so I thought. This Christmas, I decided to visit my parents' house, and we were all getting ready to celebrate. I was just about to go into the living room when I saw Emily sneaking out of her bedroom with a man who definitely wasn't her husband. Turns out, she had been secretly seeing a guy for months. Now, I could have kept quiet, but the moment everyone sat down for Christmas dinner, I couldn't hold it in anymore. I stood up, dropped the bombshell in front of everyone, and watched as my sister's face turned white. Her husband was heartbroken, and Emily went into full panic mode. I told her she had it coming for being so deceitful. Now the family is torn apart, and some say I was too harsh. Am I the a-hole for exposing my sister's affair on Christmas?
Am I the a-hole for exposing my fiancé's affair at our wedding? I, 28M, found out my fiancé, 26F, was cheating on me just 2 weeks before our wedding. Instead of canceling, I decided to go through with the ceremony, but with a twist. When it came time for the vows, I pulled out my phone and read the screenshots of her texts with another guy out loud in front of everyone. Her face turned white. Her family stormed out. She tried to grab the mic, but I just said, "You can explain yourself to everyone here." Then I walked out, leaving her at the altar. Some people say I was petty and humiliated her unnecessarily. But honestly, after what she did, I don't feel bad. Am I the a-hole for exposing the truth on our wedding day?
I caught my best friend lying, but the twist will shock you. I was always close with my best friend. We shared everything, secrets, laughs, even our crushes. But one day, everything changed. It started with something small. I overheard her talking on the phone, and she said something about me, something that wasn't true. At first, I thought I misheard it, but the more I listened, the more I realized she had been lying about our friendship to everyone. She told people I was manipulative, that I was using her, that I wasn't supportive. Everything I wasn't. I confronted her about it. She denied it at first, but then she admitted it. And here's the twist. She was doing it because she was jealous of my success. My best friend was jealous of me, and it tore me apart. I didn't know what to do, so I just walked away. To this day, I still wonder if we could have fixed it, but I don't think I'll ever trust her again. Liked that? You're officially part of the crew. Rock it. So smash like, drop a comment, and ring the bell icon bell. You won't want to miss what's coming next. I caught my husband cheating, so I made him watch me marry his brother. I, 30F, found out my husband, 33M, had been cheating on me for months. I had no idea how deep it went until I found nude photos of him with his mistress on his phone. I was devastated. Instead of confronting him right away, I made a bold decision. The next day, we were at a family gathering, and I made an announcement in front of everyone. I told my husband, "I'm done with you, and I'm marrying someone who actually loves me." Then, I turned to his brother, 31M, who had always been supportive and close to me. I said, "How about we make this official?" And with everyone watching, I proposed to his brother, right in front of my husband. The look on my husband's face? Priceless. He tried to stop it, but the family was already on my side. Now, some family members say I went too far, but honestly, I think he deserved it. Am I the a-hole for marrying my husband's brother in front of him? My mother-in-law secretly changed our baby's name while we were in the hospital. Right after I, 26F, gave birth to my daughter, my mother-in-law, 52F, visited us in the hospital. She kept making comments about how she hated the name we picked, Luna. While I was asleep from surgery meds, she convinced the nurses to file paperwork with a different name, Margaret, which was her name. When we got home and received the birth certificate in the mail, I almost passed out seeing the wrong name. My husband, 28M, was furious and confronted her, but she said, "I just saved my granddaughter from a stupid name." We had to go to court to fix everything, and now we've cut her off completely. The family is split. Some say we're being dramatic. But seriously, who hijacks a baby's name behind the parents' backs? Am I the a-hole for going no contact with my mother-in-law after she tried to rename our baby?
My neighbor reported me for suspicious plant activity. What would you do if your neighbor called the cops over your basil plant? So I decided to start a little herb garden on my balcony. Just a few pots, basil, rosemary, mint, nothing crazy. 2 days later, there's a knock at my door. two police officers. They ask, "Are you the person with the suspicious greenery?" I was like, "You mean the basil?" Turns out my neighbor, Karen, of course, reported me for suspicious plant activity because, and I quote, "the leaves look a bit too happy." I showed the cops the pots. One of them actually sniffed the basil and said, "Smells like spaghetti, not crime." Karen came storming out yelling, "That's exactly what they want you to think." The officers nodded politely, told me to keep it spicy, and left. Now I have a new sign on the balcony. Warning, highly dangerous Italian seasonings.
What would you do if your new boss was quietly pocketing your tips every night? I'd been bartending at a pub for 3 years when the original owner sold the place to a corporate group. At first, I barely noticed the change until payday. My usual weekend tips, which normally padded my take-home by over £200, had suddenly shrunk to barely £50. When I quietly asked the manager about it, he waved me off. Service charge, it's company policy now. A few nights later, my colleague Jess caught the night manager slipping his hand into her tip jar before counting down. Furious, we hatched a plan. The next Friday, Jess and I announced to every table, we appreciate tips in any form, but tonight we're taking only coins. We scattered small tip trays full of shiny 5p and 1p pieces across every bar stool and booth, and our customers happily obliged. By closing time, the tip jars bristled with hundreds of coins, an estimated £150 in nickels and pennies. As the night manager got ready to skim the service charge, he found himself elbow-deep in coppers, painstakingly rolling them into tubes while Jess and I clocked out. 2 hours later, exhausted and defeated, he handed over every last roll, no questions asked.
What would you do if your partner insisted on wearing their late spouse's wedding band on your wedding day? I'm 30, and my fiancée Emily lost her first husband Tyler in a car accident 5 years ago. They were together for 3 years before he died, and ever since, she's kept his wedding ring on a necklace. We've been dating for 2 years, got engaged last summer, and our wedding is in a few months. When we discussed ceremony plans, Emily said she wanted to wear Tyler's ring to keep him close. She explained, during our ceremony, beneath her dress, but visible on the chain. I was shocked. I love Emily and respect her grief, but this feels like I'm marrying her and him both. At first, I stayed silent so as not to hurt her, but the more I thought about it, the more uneasy I became. I finally told her I didn't agree and felt like a second-place guest at our own wedding. Emily was hurt, saying I was dismissive of her loss and making her choose between the man she loved and the man she's marrying. We've argued several times, and now neither of us sleeps well. I made a post on Reddit to ask if I'm the a-hole for insisting she leave Tyler's ring out of my wedding, and nearly 70% of commenters sided with me, suggesting alternatives like a private moment to honor Tyler or lighting a memorial candle instead.
Imagine coming home from work to find strangers sleeping in your own bed because your roommate thought he could secretly Airbnb your room. Last summer, I moved into a cozy 2-bedroom flat with Tom, a business-savvy friend from college. Everything was great until I got home early one Friday and saw suitcases in my room. Panicked, I peeked through the keyhole and saw 2 tourists napping, and Tom nowhere in sight. I barged in, furious. He strolled home 10 minutes later, coffee in hand, and casually explained, "I listed your room on Airbnb. It's free money. Guests love the decor." I reminded him I paid half the rent and that our lease forbade subletting. He shrugged. Technically, they booked through my account. When I demanded he cancel the booking, he threatened to post negative guest experiences, ruining my credit as a host he co-owned. So I went nuclear. I screenshot the listing, emails, and our lease clause, then sent everything to our landlord and Airbnb's trust team. Within 24 hours, the listing was removed. Tom got banned from the platform, and the landlord served him a 3-day eviction notice for lease violation and unauthorized guests. Tom begged me to rescind the complaint, offering to pay me double rent for the next 6 months. I refused. Trust once broken doesn't just reboot. He moved out 2 weeks later, fully on the hook for the remaining lease term. What would you do if you came home to find your entire backyard fence painted neon pink and your neighbor expected you to split the bill? Last month, I woke up to birds chirping and decided to grab coffee on my patio, only to stop dead in my tracks. My fence, which I'd installed 2 years ago, had been painted bright pink overnight. Confused, I peeked over to see my next-door neighbor, Lisa, sipping tea on her side. Beaming, she waved and said, "Hope you like the new color. I thought we could freshen it up and split the cost." My jaw dropped. Not only had she launched a surprise paint party, she'd assumed the fence was joint property and that I'd gladly pay. The day I bought the fence, I signed and submitted all permits in my name. Our property line wraps entirely inside my yard. When I gently reminded her, she huffed, "Oh, come on, this is a community effort." Instead of arguing in person, I went home, dug out my permit paperwork, and took it to the town planning office. Sure enough, the fence was on my land and I was the sole permit holder. The next morning, the town inspector arrived, cited Lisa for unauthorized alteration of someone else's property, and ordered her to restore the original stain at her expense. 2 weeks later, Lisa begrudgingly repaid me for the original fence, plus the restain cost. She even helped me repaint the garden gate back to matching dark walnut, under my supervision, of course. A stranger paid for my dream dress and changed my life forever. A few months ago, I, 25F, was wedding dress shopping with my mom. I found the perfect dress, the kind you dream about since you were a kid. It fit like magic, but when I looked at the price tag, my heart dropped. It was way over my budget. I just stood there, staring at it, knowing I couldn't afford it, but not wanting to let go. That's when a woman, probably in her late 50s, came over. She smiled warmly and said, "You remind me so much of my daughter." We started talking. I told her how much I loved the dress but couldn't justify spending that much. She listened carefully, and then, without a word, walked straight to the counter and paid for the dress in full. When I tried to refuse, she squeezed my hand and said, "My daughter passed away last year. She never got to wear her dream dress. Please, let me do this for you." I broke down crying, my mom was crying, the staff were crying. I wore that dress on my wedding day, and I felt like she was there with me somehow. I still don't even know her name, but I think about her every day. Some strangers leave marks on your heart forever.
What would you do if your roommate threatened to sue you because you sliced a banana wrong? I live with a guy named Trent. Pretty normal dude until the banana incident. One morning I sliced a banana to put on my cereal. Trent walks in, sees the banana, and goes dead silent. Then he says, "Did you just slice that banana into circles?" I say, "Yeah." He goes, "Bananas should only be sliced diagonally. Circles are an insult to the fruit." I laughed. Big mistake. He storms off, slams his door, and 2 hours later, I get an email. A formal notice that he's preparing to sue me for culinary disrespect and emotional damages related to circular produce. I thought it was a joke, until I saw him printing forms from LegalZoom.com. 2 days later, his mom shows up and yells, "Trent, stop threatening people over fruit. We talked about this after the kiwi thing."
What would you do if your coworker claimed your project as her own and even got a bonus for it? I'm a data analyst at a mid-size marketing firm, and last quarter I spent 2 weeks building a deep dive report showing how our new social campaign was outperforming competitors. I shared the draft with my team lead and copied myself on every email. A few days later, I walked into the all-hands meeting to find my project slides up on the big screen, presented by my peer, Jenna. She'd taken my charts, tweaked a couple of labels, and rolled right through the Q&A as if she'd done all the research. The CEO even congratulated her on raising the bar and announced a $1,000 performance bonus. My stomach dropped. After the meeting, I went straight to my inbox and pulled up every time-stamped email with my original slides. Then I grabbed our lead and Jenna and said, "I'm thrilled the report got such traction. Here's my version from last Tuesday. Would you like me to walk through the methodology? The room went silent. Jenna stammered, "Oh, I thought you'd sent those last week, but I was running late on my own deliverables, so I just polished them up." Our lead apologized, told Jenna to share credit in the company newsletter, and undercover, HAR, reversed the bonus decision, redirecting it to me. Jenna still avoids eye contact in the break room, and I learned 2 important lessons. Always blind, CC yourself on drafts, and don't be afraid to own your work in public. How would you feel if your fiancé died, and his family demanded you hand over your engagement ring? I'd been engaged to my partner, Mark, for 6 months when he was tragically killed in a car accident. After the funeral, his parents called me asking to borrow the ring, saying it was a family heirloom they wanted back. I reminded them that Mark had chosen the ring for me and that he'd proposed with it as a symbol of our commitment. His mother replied, "It's our legacy, you'll get something else." I refused. Over the next week, I received texts and calls insisting I was being cold and ungrateful. His father even threatened to exclude me from the will if I didn't comply. I stood firm, explaining that the ring was a gift, legally mine, and returning it would feel like erasing my memories of Mark. Eventually, they stopped calling, and I kept the ring. When I posted on Reddit, 94% of commenters sided with me, saying an engagement ring is a conditional gift that belongs to the recipient unless the marriage actually happens. And in this tragic case, it absolutely was mine to keep. Am I the a-hole for ruining my best friend's engagement after I told her fiancé kissed me at his party? So my best friend's getting engaged, she's super excited, and I'm totally happy for her. But then her fiancé, Dave, invites me to a party at their place to celebrate. I show up, have a few drinks, and as the night goes on, things get a little wild. Me and Dave get to talking, and suddenly we're laughing, having a good time, and then he kisses me. It's not like a full-on makeout session, but it's definitely a kiss. I push him off and go, "What the hell?" But he says, "Don't worry, it's just for fun." I freak out and leave the party, but I don't think much of it until a week later. At my best friend's engagement dinner, I blurted out in front of everyone, "Hey, by the way, Dave kissed me last week at a party." The room goes silent. My best friend starts crying, her fiancé is fuming, and all the guests are just awkwardly staring at me. My friend calls me a traitor and says I'm trying to ruin her happiness. Now I'm the villain, and everyone's telling me I overreacted. Am I the a-hole for ruining my best friend's engagement by telling her fiancé kissed me at a party?
Am I the a-hole for listing my cheating husband's PS5 on Facebook Marketplace for £5? I, 28F, found out my husband, 30M, was cheating not just once, but with 2 different women. Instead of yelling or crying, I decided to get even. He loves his PS5 more than anything. Like, he once canceled our anniversary dinner to play Call of Duty with his friends. So while he was at work, aka his girlfriend's apartment, I took some photos of his precious PS5, controllers, headset, the whole bundle. Then I listed it on Facebook Marketplace for £5. I even said, "Works perfectly, just getting rid of a lying, cheating piece of trash. I mean, the console." It was gone in 20 minutes. When he got home and saw the empty shelf, he lost it. I just looked him dead in the eye and said, "You can go play with your side chick now." He stormed out, and I haven't seen him since. AITA for selling his PS5 for the price of a coffee?
I got kicked out of a wedding for bringing a +1. A duck. What would you do if you were banned from a wedding for bringing a duck in a bow tie? So, my cousin sent me a wedding invite that said, +1 welcome, bring whoever makes you happy. I don't date, but I do have a pet duck named Reginald, and he makes me happier than any Tinder date ever has. I show up at the venue in a suit, Reginald waddling beside me, also in a tiny bow tie. People lost their minds. The bride screamed, "Is that a live animal?" I said he RSVP'd. Turns out whoever makes you happy apparently didn't include ducks. They tried to kick us out, but Reginald panicked and flew into the reception hall, knocking over the champagne tower and landing in the groom's lap like a feathery grenade. We were kicked out after that. Am I the a-hole for starting a food fight at my friend's wedding? Because I didn't like the cake. So my friend had this super fancy wedding, right? The kind with gold-plated everything and a cake that looked like it belonged in a museum. But here's the problem. I hated the cake. It wasn't even cake. It was like some weird sponge bread hybrid with fondant that tasted like wax. I tried to get through it politely, but the moment I looked at the giant wedding cake, I snapped. I turned to my best friend and said, "If I have to eat one more bite of this disaster, I'll lose it." And before I knew it, I was launching cake at the groom's face. I didn't even mean to. It just happened. Then the bride started crying, and her family dove into the mess. It was like a scene from a movie. People were dodging cake slices left and right. Security had to step in. The groom and I got into a shouting match, and suddenly the entire reception was turned into a cake battlefield. By the end, the wedding was called off early, the cake was trashed, and I somehow became the villain in the story. Am I the a-hole for starting a cake-throwing war at my friend's wedding just because I didn't like the cake? My roommate hired an actor to play his girlfriend, and forgot to tell her when to stop. My roommate was tired of us clowning on him for being single, so he hired an actress to pretend to be his girlfriend at our house party. She was amazing. Brought a scrapbook, called his mom Mama B, told stories from their fake vacation in Italy. I was convinced. The problem? He never told her it was just for the party. The next day, she made pancakes, moved in 2 drawers, called our landlord Dad. He tried to end it, but she said, "I don't break character until the contract ends." Turns out he paid for the platinum package, 3 weeks, includes a fake breakup. She dumped him in front of his coworkers, cried on cue, and left blasting Taylor Swift. We all clapped. Honestly, best relationship he's ever had. Ever get fired for microwaving your lunch 2 minutes early? Because I did. So I worked at this ultra uptight office with quiet hours from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. No talking, no phone calls, no sudden movements. Basically, it was like working in a library run by robots. One day, I forgot and microwaved my leftover lasagna at 3:58 p.m. The microwave beeped once, one beep, and I swear to God, it was like I had set off a nuclear bomb. My manager burst into the kitchen like the Kool-Aid Man and yelled, "What part of silence don't you understand?" I apologized and even offered her some lasagna. She said, "You've broken the sacred trust of the 2 to 4 window. HR will be in touch." The next day, I got an email. Termination due to audio violation involving reheated pasta.
Am I the a-hole for locking my roommate's boyfriend in the bathroom because I thought he was a ghost? I, 24F, live with my roommate Jess, who recently started dating a guy named Colin. He's quiet, like scarily quiet. I've never actually seen him enter or leave our apartment. He just kind of appears. Last week, I got home late, exhausted, and went to brush my teeth. The bathroom door was wide open, lights off, nobody inside. I go in. Suddenly, I hear a deep cough behind the shower curtain. I absolutely lost it. I grabbed a mop, slammed the door shut, and wedged a chair under the handle from the outside. I thought I had trapped a ghost. I start yelling through the door like, "This is a peaceful home. You don't belong here." That's when Jess gets home and starts screaming at me because apparently Colin was taking a nap in the tub and had just woken up. Now she's furious, says I humiliated him, and Colin refuses to come over anymore. I say this wouldn't have happened if he didn't move like a paranormal entity. Am I the a-hole for locking my roommate's boyfriend in the bathroom because I thought he was a ghost? Am I the a-hole for making my boyfriend redo my birthday after he gave me a cutting board and left? I, 25F, was super excited for my birthday this year. I hinted for weeks about dinner, a small surprise, nothing big. My boyfriend of 2 years shows up, hands me a wrapped box, and says, "Sorry, can't stay, work emergency." I open it. It's a cutting board, a plain wooden cutting board. No card, no dinner, no nothing. I texted him, ? And he said, "You like cooking, right?" I do, but a $12 cutting board and a flakeout wasn't exactly the birthday I imagined. So I told him I wanted a redo. Not the gift, just the effort. He got mad, said I was being materialistic and ungrateful. I told him this wasn't about money, it was about caring enough to show up. Now he's sulking, and our friends are split. Some say I'm right, others say I should have just appreciated it. Am I the a-hole for asking my boyfriend to redo my birthday after the cutting board disaster?
Am I the a-hole for ruining my sister's birthday party after she tried to outshine me at my wedding? So, my wedding was a big deal for me, and I worked super hard to make everything perfect. My sister, 30F, and I are close, but let's just say she's always had a thing for stealing the spotlight. First, she tried to change my wedding date because it clashed with her birthday, but I refused, saying it was my day. A week before the wedding, she says she's throwing herself a huge birthday party the same night. I'm like, okay, fine. I'll try to avoid it, but this day is about me, you know? The day of my wedding, my sister arrives in a full wedding dress, saying it was just for fun. She keeps posing for pictures, jumping in front of the photographer and saying things like, "Oh, I'm just practicing for my own wedding." I ask her to stop, and she says, "You're just jealous because I'm more beautiful than you." At this point, I'm fuming, but I try to keep it together. Then, at the reception, she announces she's having a surprise birthday cake, complete with balloons and streamers. She stands up, cuts the cake, and gives a speech saying, "I'll always be the one people remember, not you." I'm livid, and I finally snap, telling her she's ruined the day. She storms off, and now my family's divided. Am I the a-hole for ruining my sister's birthday party after she tried to outshine me at my wedding?
I cheated and didn't realize how much I hurt her. I always thought I'd be the guy who never cheated. I had a girlfriend I loved, someone I was building my life with. But that night, everything changed. It started at a party, lots of drinks, music, and that one moment when things just spiraled. This girl started flirting with me, and instead of stopping it, I let it happen. We ended up in a back room. The next morning, I woke up, my stomach in knots. What did I just do? I was disgusted with myself, but I didn't tell my girlfriend right away. I thought, maybe I can bury it. Maybe she'll never know. But that was a lie I told myself. Days went by and the guilt was unbearable. Every time I looked at her, I saw her trust, her love for me, and I felt like a fraud. The worst part? She had no idea. I was watching her smile, holding her hand while hiding the truth. And then, one day, she confronted me. I don't even know how she knew, but when she asked, I saw the hurt in her eyes before I even said a word. The second I admitted it, I felt like the world was crashing down. She cried, she screamed at me, and I realized then how badly I had destroyed everything. She asked, "How could you do this to me?" And I didn't have an answer. I broke her heart for a selfish, stupid mistake. The worst part? I never thought about how it would affect her, how it would change everything between us. Now she's gone, and I'm left here, alone with the guilt. I'll never be able to undo what I did. I lost the love of my life for one reckless choice, and I'll carry that regret forever.